Good morning, friends. Let me first of all thank ET Conclave, the organizers, most sincerely for this honor. It's a privilege to speak to such a distinguished audience. I have been an avid reader of ET for decades, and I'm privileged to get this opportunity to speak to you on this platform. So, let me begin by mentioning a small anecdote. When I joined as chairman of the Competition Commission of India in February 2009, at that time I was the first chairman, and some of my friends called me the next day on reading the news. Hey, congratulations, you got a new assignment. And by the way, what do you do? And I had to explain to them what's the function, what's the role of the Competition Commission of India. And some of the friends who were in business, they asked me, well, we had enough mothers-in-law in the past, so there is another mother-in-law who has been added to breathe down our neck. And I had to explain to them that this mother-in-law is not really that bad. It is also helpful in a number of ways. And if you look at the Indian competition law, that's a law where consumer is defined as not only one who buys goods and services for one's own use and end consumption, but also if he buys something for commercial purposes, and therefore everybody in the value chain from producer until the consumer, they could be distributors, they could be assemblers and so on. So everybody is a consumer in some way or the other. The objective of the competition law is basically to protect the interest of consumers and to maintain the competition, the process of competition in the market. So under the law, they have to eliminate practices which are harmful to the competition, and they have to promote competition proactively. They have also to ensure that there is a freedom of trade in the market, or in other words, there is a level playing field. So altogether, what it means that the consumer should be able to get goods and services at the lowest possible cost and in the best possible quality, and therefore the consumer is the king, so to say. But consumer in the value chain would also mean that the efficiency of the economy, both static and dynamic efficiency and the allocative efficiency of resources would also be maximized, because the balance would come at a time when everybody is working towards optimum efficiency. Having said this, the various provisions in the architecture of the competition law, which basically are three. Pillar 1 is section 3, which talks of the anti-competitive agreements. Section 4, which talks of the abuse of dominance, which can be either exploitative or exclusionary. And section 5 and 6, which mentions about the review in the case of combinations, mergers and acquisitions. So all these pillars and the architecture is designed to ensure that the competition in the market is maintained and there is nothing which is done to dilute or eliminate competition in the market, because competition is the tool which governs the interest of consumers. That's the objective of the competition law. This was also confirmed again by the Honorable Supreme Court in the Steel Authority case, where in a landmark judgment in 2010, in fact, at that time I was the chairman of the Competition Commission, they held that the objective of the Competition Commission is clearly defined in these terms which I just mentioned about in the preamble, and therefore the consumer's welfare, consumer law, consumer choice has to be ensured. Choice is a big word, and consumer being the king, he should have a free, perfect choice. We generally say that we have freedom of choice, and therefore we could have any number of options to choose from. or the choice could be zero in the sense that you are told to buy whatever you have. Now, the government and the authorities, development authority, it's their jobs to develop the market in a manner that the consumer has maximum choice. There is no limit, but as far as possible, as many competitors who are competing for the custom of the consumers in a perfect leveling field according to the rules of the game. So consumers get the best product and in the best possible quality. The producers also try to innovate. They bring the latest technologies and they improve their product through management practices and the best possible raw material and efficiencies are increased. So in the process, the consumer and the producer in the value chain, they are able to get goods and services in the best possible manner. And this has been seen in a number of situations in various sectors. This was reaffirmed in one case, which is considered to be a landmark case in the context of consumer welfare, which is the auto parts case, Shamsher Singh versus Honda sale. And there the commission held very clearly and unambiguously that the consumer's choice must not be restricted. And this was a case where they also defined the aftermarket, after sale of the cars, that the repairs and the servicing, consumers should be at liberty to take their vehicles to whichever shop they wish to, whichever store they wish to, buy the spare parts and so on. It should not be necessary for them to go only to the authorized dealers and buy from them the spare parts, because it was felt that the consumers were on the receiving end and the car owners were making money basically in the sale of spare parts and the repairs and the servicing through their authorized dealers. This has also been again affirmed in a number of sectors. In pharma sector, for example, in the cement sector, where the CCI has imposed heavy fines on the cement manufacturers for cartelization, where they felt that the consumers were made to pay higher than it was necessary according to the demand supply. And in a number of other areas, also in airlines and so many other sectors. The government is also a consumer. In fact, they are one of the biggest consumers in the market, and the purchases by government, they form a large part of the GDP of the country and the states also. It has also been held that in the procurement and purchases by the government and public authorities and the public sector and so on, the process of competition has to be maintained, and the bidders, the suppliers, they have to ensure that there is no cartelization or bid rotation or whatever methods are sometimes adopted by the suppliers. And therefore, very heavy fines have also been imposed in several such cases. Let us look at the situation which prevails now. We are in the midst of pandemic, and in this situation, the prices and everything, the consumer demand, they've gone for a toss. In this situation, when the economy was hit by COVID-19, the consumers were also taken aback, and so were the suppliers and the producers. In this situation, the incomes, the resources of consumers shrank considerably, and they had to reprioritize their purchases, what they should buy. And this was generally limited to only the bare essentials, the medicines, the necessary equipment, the face masks, the sanitizers, and so on, and of course, the essential food and stuff like this. And whatever purchases could be deferred, which could be travel in any case, travel was not possible because the airlines were not operative, and the entertainment or the outdoor eating and so on, all those things were deferred, the beauty and luxury products. So the entire thing had to be recalibrated and reprioritized. And there, the role of technology and digitization came in a big way. Since the social distance had to be maintained, e-commerce came for a big help, and the supply of goods and services they came in a big way. And it was found that during this period of pandemic, the e-commerce, the value of these companies, it went up. In due course of time, it caught up with the pre-COVID levels and even increased beyond that. And the major companies around the world, whether Amazon or Walmart and so on, their shares, they also increased. So e-commerce, I mean, not saying in a negative way, I would say that digitization or digital economy came to the rescue of consumers and also to industry and economy during this period. And we have to remember now that in this kind of a situation, how can competition ensure that the value or the economy progresses with the same pace or higher pace than earlier? There have been a number of innovations or number of initiatives taken in this context. And by the way, let me also mention that when the Competition Commission, it was taking decisions and it was reviewing cases, they were also mindful of the fact that the economy was passing through difficult times. And as was stated by the chairman CCI in a recent CCI event, it was clear that they took very lenient view in several cases. In their regulations also, they amended these regulations in April 2020 when they allowed virtual hearing and virtual filing of cases. In some of the cases, they didn't impose any fines and let the firms go with cease and desist. And they also introduced several other measures like the green filing or green channel route in the mergers and acquisition when combinations had to be reviewed. So the firms were given easier interface with the CCI. In other countries also, they adopted similar lenient approach, and the competition law or antitrust law around the world calibrated itself to the needs of economy in the changed context. Having said this, we have to now see what is going to happen in the coming times. It's a very difficult situation we have been passing through. The industry, the businesses, the consumers, and the regulators, they are part of the same ecosystem, and they have to live together. If I can use the word or give the example of cricket, any player has to not only provide a thrill to the audience, which is the consumer, and they have also to make sure that they are playing according to the rules of the game, which is the regulator, and also enhance the share value of their owner, which is the brand owner or the corporate. So all the three have to be looked after. The businesses, if they don't adapt to the preferences of the consumers in these times, they would possibly be out of the market very soon. And it's not untrue also. We have seen how Kodak, in the change situation when digital photography came, the paper printing and so on. It went out of use, out of fashion in 98. Earlier they were 175,000 employees, and soon it had to wind up. A number of such examples exist when disruptive technologies, they have thrown earlier products out of the market. So the businesses, they have to come up with new technologies and with new products, and they have to make sure that consumers are also informed about it. It is to be remembered that the choice of consumer has to be rational, and it has to be on a sustainable basis. So they should be able to provide new goods and services which conform to the new times and new needs, new normal. And therefore, we hope that in the next couple of years, when this COVID pandemic is still around, we would see a lot of new products coming up, a lot of new ways coming up, management practices coming up. Already in the new normal, work from home is the new rule, and social distancing also. The priorities of the consumers have also undergone change. Although we hope that in due course of time, we would be reverting back to some of the old needs. Already in the real estate, for example, the demand for flats, the houses is going up. Although there is need of some calibration to suit the work from home, in India, the needs of internet, broadband has also gone up substantially. India is a country where more than 50% of the population is young, and the number of mobile connections, the number of internet connections, they have really been skyrocketing during these days. In fact, it's almost 100% now, the tele density, if you take into account the cellular telephones and the mobile phones. And with the penetration in the rural areas, we hope that there would be considerable demand boost for new goods and services by the common man, for the Aam Aadmi. So to conclude, if I may say so, that we are in for very exciting times. A country like India, with a population of 135 crore people, of which 50% or more are in young 30 years or lesser age, it's an aspirational India who are aspiring, who are looking for new products and services. In the information age, they are aware of what's going around the world. So whatever is available anywhere else in the world, they would also aspire and like to have them. And through e-commerce, it's also possible to get these things from anywhere at any point of time. E-commerce is also boosting the trade and commerce in a big way, as also providing a commerce platform or trading platform to small players and the artisans, MSMEs. And it has been seen that a number of old habits have changed. People are now generally going in for online purchases. Fintech also coming in a big way. The payments also are going digitally in most cases. The cash economy is also changing. So we hope that in times to come, we would have a new normal which would be embedded with many of these new things. And this would open up a lot of opportunities for businesses, a lot of opportunities for the consumers and the regulators. The good thing is that they are conscious, they are not oblivious of the fact that everybody is passing through challenging times, and they have to attune their tools to suit the needs. And in the digital economy, the challenges before the regulators, whether it is the CCI or the TRAI or the National Payment Gateway Authority or the NITI or the or the Department of Industrial Policy and Trade. They are all regulators in different way, or health or education. They are conscious of the need of maintaining FDI and the investments and growth, and we have to catch up with our economic growth to the pre-COVID levels as soon as possible. Unless the share of the cake is increased, it would not be possible to feed the entire class of consumers, and we hope that we shall reach those levels very soon. It has been a pleasure talking on this platform. I shall be happy in case there are any questions which I could answer. Thank you once again. Thank you very much. And let me also, before I leave, mention about this day being very important. 16th December is celebrated in India as the Victory Day, when India scored a victory over Pakistan, and Bangladesh was carved out. So this is a Victory Day, and we hope that going forward, we'll soon register a victory over COVID-19 also. Thank you very much once again.